Continuamos conversando con el doctor Alexander Astin y la doctora Helen Astin. We were talking on the first segment on the spiritual qualities that you developed on your research. I would like you to comment on the ones of the ethic of caring and also on the ecumenical worldview, which I think is very important for the world right now. Dr. Astin.
Well, this again, it's interesting. I was going to say those are my favorite qualities. The qualities of relatedness and the interconnectedness, that we are part of this world, part of our community, part of each other. So we were able to identify three qualities. One is the ethic of caring, we named it, which means really that how much do we care about others? How much do we care about what happens to our neighbor? It's much more of a attitudes, beliefs, and values that undergird caring for the other and about the other. The charitable involvement is primarily, what do we do about it? Do we really engage in helping the other? Do we donate money to charities? Do we help the sick? Sort of acting out this love for the other and caring for the other. Ecumenical worldview is a very important quality, as you indicated too, in this world today, where we are thinking of the global community, and we're not anymore just us here in Puerto Rico or us there in Los Angeles, but we're part of the global community. And how do we express that? And basically, many of the questions that made that quality was accepting and respecting the various religious beliefs of others, caring about other cultures, about people who are different about us. It was an other-centered quality rather than an egocentric or an ethnocentric approach to life and the way we view the world. And you might want to say something about our global citizenship, which came by combining ethic of caring and ecumenical worldview.
Yeah, we felt that the notion of a global citizen involved, on the one hand, a sense of caring about others, but also a realization that we're part of a large global citizenry, and that others isn't just our family or our neighbors, but it's all human beings.
There's another measure that you developed on your research, which are the religious measures. And let me ask, for the benefit of our viewers, your definition and your interpretation during the research of the religious commitment and also of the religious engagement, the difference and the similarities between them.
As you might guess, they're closely related.
Very close.
And religious commitment is an internal quality, a quality of mind and viewpoint and commitment. Religious engagement is the actual behavior of attending religious services, reading sacred texts, and that sort of thing. And so the two are very closely aligned, but they are distinctive in the sense that one is an internal and the other is a behavioral manifestation of that internal commitment.
The other religious measures that you worked with were the religious and the social conservatism, the religious skepticism, and also the religious struggle. How did you work with those measures on your research?
Well, the religious struggle is a very interesting measure because our students told us in so many ways that they do struggle. Sometimes they say, I feel angry with God, or I begin to doubt my faith, or I have arguments with my parents about my religion and my faith. So it's a very kind of natural struggle as you begin to look at yourself and learn that in the world there are all these other people that I live with on campus, and they practice a very different faith tradition. So you begin to question really your own faith, but also your belief in God, really. So the struggle is another inedible experience for growing students going through the college years. On the other hand, we have the juxtaposition of the conservatism and the skepticism.
Well, conservatism is really has to do with the degree to which students embrace certain traditionally conservative viewpoints in a religious framework. And a religiously conservative student would be one who is very much opposed to casual sexual relationships among people, who is opposed to abortion, who feels very strongly about atheists and that atheists are they're sinful.
Be punished.
They're going to be punished. And also, the part of conservatism is proselytizing, is the feeling that you must convert other people to your faith. So these are the qualities that go together in that complex that we call conservatism. The religious skepticism is really the reverse side of commitment in a sense. It's a skeptical person would be one who doesn't believe in God, or who believes that when we die, that's the end and there's no life after death, and that science will ultimately explain everything for us. And so that's what a skeptical person is like. So,
did you find some examples of religious social activism? People with very deep religious faith, but also willing to work more closely with community activities and projects?
There is an inclination on the part of many very religious students to act out their beliefs through the community and in the form of service in the community. So that's
very important.
That's a common phenomenon.
Then I would like to ask, what were your most important findings on your research? General ones. Good, because it was a very huge data.
Yeah.
It was a very ambitious project in terms of scope. But what were your most important findings?
Well, I can start us off, and then my partner here can fill it up. But just to begin with, during the college years, because we studied these students from the time they began college as new students, new freshmen, until the end of their third year in college. So we were able to see how they changed. And what we discovered was that religious engagement, that is attendance at church services, declines during college. On the other hand, almost all of the spiritual qualities increase during college. So students become somewhat less engaged in religious behavior, but their spiritual qualities get stronger during college.
That's one of your most important findings.
Yes.
Helen.
Well, as we said earlier, one of the questions also for us was, what makes the difference? What is the nature of the college experience that leads students to grow in their spiritual dimensions? That was a very important question we posed. And the findings were very interesting, because what we found, I would say probably something that plays the most critical role in their growth, is for students encounter the other, as we say, that is coming into contact with people from different belief systems, people from different cultures, sort of having a diverse campus, which I think you have one here, really brings students into saying, who am I and what is my relationship to the other? And that, I think, helps them to clarify who they are, and also to begin to grow in their caring for others and in their ecumenical worldview. Also, the role of faculty is critical in how students grow spiritually. If the faculty engage students in conversation about spiritual matters, about meaning and purpose in life, then we see a growth in the students on these qualities. So the faculty plays a very important role. Studying abroad, we found, again, to be very critical, which again brings students into another culture, in contact with new ways of thinking and new ways of living and behaving. That also played a role in their growth. And finally, it's very important, which Zeni can address, the role of contemplation and meditation and reflection in the growth of the spiritual qualities, which we found to be very critical.
Yes, this is something that we do very little of in higher education. That is, encourage the student to be reflective, contemplative, to meditate. And these reflection and contemplation and meditation are very powerful ways to strengthen students' spiritual qualities. So we could be doing a lot more in our universities if we would encourage students to be more reflective writing, more reflective discussions with each other, more quiet time alone to reflect on your life and this sort of thing. And it's a very powerful experience.
What are institutions like UCLA doing to promote that type of reflection and spiritual work for the students?
Well, actually, what we wanted to, we had precisely this question in mind as well, because we want institutions not only to hear what we found, but also to begin to think of ways of promoting the development of spirituality. So we held an institute at UCLA where we invited members of institutions, from academic administrators to student affairs to faculty, to come and brainstorm with us and also hear from them. Are they doing things to promote spiritual development? And we did find a number of practices, and subsequently our research that has been shared nationally has led to some practices. For example, Carnegie Mellon University has created a program that they call it the Big Questions, where senior faculty meet with students in the residence halls to talk about the big questions that students are dealing with. And they read books, but also they have a discussion and reflection on that. We also finding that now institutions in the United States are developing spaces where students can go and meditate and reflect. Florida State University is building a park, and in the park they have already planned meditation spaces, which again encourages the students to get the time and have the space where they can be contemplative and be reflective. So that's another practice that we see happening. So I think institutions, at this point, I feel very good about it, are beginning to think seriously of the important role spirituality plays in students' lives and to begin to address it, especially when we think about the holistic development of students. So we do see things happening around the country.
Fortunately. Alexander, Helen, unfortunately we have reached the end of this program. Thank you for accepting our invitation.
Our pleasure.
Thank you.
Amigas y amigos, nuestra invitación para que compartan con nosotros sus recomendaciones y observaciones sobre el programa a través del correo electrónico que aparece en pantalla. Los esperamos la próxima semana. Que tengan muy buenas noches.